when we whisper to ourselves, "Why am I here?" The question carries both weight and wonder. It is not only about where we live, or who our family is, or what moment in history we were born into. It reaches deeper than time and place, deeper than circumstance. It touches something beneath our daily routines, the question of origin itself. Where does this body come from? This breath that keeps arriving and departing. This awareness that looks out into the world and wonders about its own existence. The Buddha often spoke of yunzi-dependent arising, the principle that nothing comes into being on its own. Every life, every thought, every world appears only because conditions meet, lean on one another, and hold each other for a time. A seed lying alone is only a seed, but when it meets soil, water, and light, it becomes a sprout. A sprout grows only if the seasons allow, if rain falls, and the sun returns. A body on its own is not yet a person, but when breath flows through it, when sensations register, when memory and intention take root, then life begins to move. To ask, "Why am I here?" is already to recognize that we are never the product of a single cause, but of countless conditions woven together, appearing for a while, and then moving on. In the early discourses, the Buddha did not identify a first beginning. He said the stream of birth and death has no traceable starting point. It is like a river whose source is hidden high in the mountains. You cannot stand at the very first spring, but you can see how the water flows, and you can learn what keeps it moving. He explained how ignorance clouds the mind, how unknowing shapes our actions, how actions plant seeds that stir consciousness, and how consciousness joins with body and mind to create the sense of a person. From this union, the senses awaken, contact is made, and feelings rise. Feelings lean toward craving. Craving hardens into grasping. Grasping builds becoming, and becoming leads to birth. And with birth come aging, sickness, and death, the full circle of human struggle. This is not just a cosmology of the distant past. It is a map of how each moment arises even now. When clarity is absent, choices are shaped by confusion, and those choices give rise to new patterns of mind. Each pattern becomes the ground for new perceptions, new desires, and new identities, which we hold to as if they were permanent. In this way, birth and death are not only events of the body, they happen in every moment of clinging and letting go. So the question, "Why am I here?" is not only about where life began long ago. It is also about how life begins again and again in this very moment. The Buddha described this teaching with both precision and compassion. He showed that suffering is not caused by a single mistake, nor by a divine punishment, but by a chain of conditions that can be understood. He compared it to a fire that keeps burning because fuel is supplied. When the fuel runs out, the flame goes out on its own. In the same way, when ignorance is removed, the actions that sustain suffering begin to cease, and a different way of being becomes possible. Other traditions told their own stories of origins. Some spoke of a divine creator shaping human beings from clay and breathing spirit into their form. Others told of ancestors walking out of the earth, or heaven and earth meeting to bring forth life. These stories were not only explanations, they were ways of saying that life does not appear in isolation, that it rests in relation to forces beyond itself. Modern science speaks differently, but the pattern is familiar. It tells us of stars that lived and died, scattering elements into space. It tells of planets cooling, of oceans where molecules began to copy themselves, of long chains of evolution shaping eyes that can see, hands that can grasp, and minds that can reflect. Even in this language, life arises only because conditions gather to support it. Though the images and words differ, they point to the same recognition. Our life depends on conditions we did not create. The warmth of the sun, the oxygen in the air, the pull of gravity that steadies the earth. None of these are ours. Yet every breath relies on them. To be human is to be a guest in a vast unfolding, carried by causes we did not set in motion. But even with this recognition, the question does not fade. If everything depends on conditions, what does that mean for purpose? Am I here by accident, as if existence were nothing more than chance? Am I here through karma, the ripening of actions set in motion long ago? Or is there some hidden design, an intention written into the fabric of the world? The Buddha did not describe human life as created for a single cosmic purpose. Instead, he turned the question toward karma, toward action. Life, he taught, is the flowering of seeds already planted, and the seeds we plant now will shape what follows. To be here is not a punishment, and not a reward, and not an empty accident. It is the ripening of causes, and at the same time, it is the chance to plant new ones. This is why karma is not a system of blame, but of responsibility. Every action, every word, every thought leaves an imprint. Generosity leaves the mind more open. Hatred leaves the heart more wounded. Compassion waters the roots of connection. Greed feeds the roots of hunger. To ask why am I here is to face the truth that life is shaped by causes, and to recognize that in this very moment, new causes are being planted. The Buddha compared this process to tending a field. If a farmer plants bitter seeds, bitter fruit will grow. If a farmer plants sweet seeds, sweet fruit will grow. The field does not punish or reward. It simply responds to what is planted. In the same way, this life reflects the seeds of the past, but also offers the field for new seeds now. Psychology echoes this truth. Habits of thought, formed early, bend the path of a lifetime. Memory shapes the sense of self. Repeated attention carves channels in the mind, channels that steer the future. Neuroscience shows how patterns in the brain strengthen with use, becoming easier to repeat and harder to escape. But the very same science shows that new patterns can be formed and that the mind can be trained. This is why meditation is not just stillness. It is the planting of new causes. The Buddha often redirected the question of origins away from speculation. Instead of asking about a first beginning, he asked what sustains suffering and how it can cease. He did not deny the mystery of beginnings, but he pointed to the mystery that is immediate, the fact that here and now, 0, 3, suffering is being fed, and here and now, it can also be released. And still, wonder remains. Modern cosmology reminds us of billions of galaxies, stars beyond numbering, planets beyond counting. Amid all this, there is a body that breathes, a mind that knows it breathes, and a heart that asks why. Out of the endless possibilities of matter and energy, here is a life that can question itself. The old texts remind us that human birth is rare and precious. If suffering is too great, awareness collapses. If pleasure is too abundant, awareness is drowned. But human life sits in a fragile balance, tender enough to know pain, steady enough to know clarity. In this balance lies the chance to awaken. Western philosophers also turned toward this astonishment. Descartes said, "I think, therefore, I am," as if awareness itself were the first certainty. Camus asked whether life is worth living at all, treating existence itself as the greatest question. Different words, different methods, but the same recognition: to exist, and to know that you exist, is already an unfathomable gift. So why am I here? I am here because conditions have gathered into this moment. I am here because karma has matured into this life. I am here because the universe holds space for life to arise. And I am here because life itself keeps leaning toward expression 0, 3, blooming wherever it can. What does this mean? It means that my being here is not guaranteed and not permanent, but also not meaningless. It is an opening, a rare pause in the endless flow, a chance to see clearly, a chance to practice, a chance to awaken. The question of origins may never be sealed by a single answer, but it can be honored in how we live. Gratitude for the causes that made this life possible. Care for the seeds we are planting now. Clarity that each breath is itself a beginning. Perhaps the deeper response is this: I am here because the universe has gathered itself into this fragile form. I am here because past actions have shaped the ground of this moment. And I am here with the freedom to let ignorance dissolve into wisdom, to let craving soften into compassion. Why am I here? Because here is the place where the universe meets itself in awareness. Because here is the moment where suffering can begin to turn toward release. Because here is where awakening begins.